due to Al-Shabaab attacks.
Katika mwezi mmoja ama miwili ambayo imepita, tumeona hao wakora wameanza kutatiza amani. Tumesimamisha huo utaratibu kwa muda kidogo. Kwanza kabisa tushughulikie hao magaidi, tuwafurushe, alafu tutafungua mipaka yetu.
The 3 border posts based in Mandera, Lamu and Garissa would have been reopened in a 90-day period following a ministerial meeting between representatives of the 2 nations on the 15th of May this year. In the few past months, terrorist attacks have been rampant in areas bordering Somalia. Just recently in Lamu County, more than 5 people were beheaded in an attack, with many others fleeing their homes in fear of losing their lives. And with Dadaab playing host to thousands of refugees fleeing from violence, drought and poverty, the government now plans to have a complete database of the refugees in the country in a bid to account for people getting into the country through its porous borders.
It is going to be the responsibility of the government of Kenya to manage and administer a complete database of all refugees in our country.
Kindiki acknowledging that a small number of refugees might have used their status to get involved in the criminal and terrorist activities.
We can take responsibility on the management of all people lawfully resident in our territory.
The reopening of the borders meant that the flow of capital and goods would have been revived. However, Kindiki says the delay is a temporary measure to ensure security first prevails at the border. Mariam Munjal, TV47.
Now, our proposal for the establishment of junior secondary schools in all public primary schools has gained support from the members of parliament who called on the government to speedily address challenges facing the competency-based curriculum hindering its smooth implementation. And the lawmakers further stressed the importance of addressing the long distance that learners cover to access JSS schools, as this could critically affect their performance and well-being, as Andren Kilomi details.
Debating a motion presented by Mbeere North Member of Parliament Geoffrey Ruku, the lawmakers lamented that CBC was rushed without proper infrastructure and staffing to facilitate learning.
If you go to the developed world, they don't keep changing the education system every 5 or 10 years or after every major election. We must come up with a policy in education that will last for time immemorial.
We have no facilities to encourage the learner to learn more. Why? Because we lack the basic infrastructure. For example, I see demonstration on swimming in many schools. Surely, this is learning to learn. Swimming on sand, swimming on concrete, and yet we are saying we are impacting competencies to our children.
Baringo North lawmaker Joseph Kipkoros expressed concern that the recent government guidelines requiring JSS to be established in select primary schools had caused confusion and rendered classrooms for classes 7 and 8 redundant.
Will these junior secondary schools operate under a different head teacher, or they will be under the same head teacher of a primary school?
Some of the distances that these children are covering are quite huge distances, and therefore I want to implore upon the Ministry of Education to ensure that each and every school has a JSS class.
The lawmakers further urged the government to ensure timely disbursement of capitation funds to schools to ensure quality learning in schools.
Teachers cannot be given students without food, without anything, without books. And yet, every day there are warnings that teachers should not send students out of school.
The MPs now want the Presidential Working Party on Reforms of Education to finally unveil their official report to prevent teachers, parents and learners from working on guesswork. Andren Kilemi, TV47.
Now, the High Court has extended the conservatory orders against implementation of the Finance Act 2023 until 10th July 2023. High Court Judge Lady Justice Mugure Thande, while issuing the directions, said the act remains suspended until 2 p.m. on the 10th of July, when the ruling will be delivered and directions given. This means the implementation of the Finance Act 2023 still stands suspended in accordance with the orders issued on the 30th June. However, Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority, EPRA, over the weekend increased fuel prices, while the authority adhered to the court orders.
My lady.
Yes.
For 5 days, the country had been waiting with bated breath for the mention of petition number E181 of 2023.
Good morning, everybody.
Come Wednesday morning, High Court Judge Lady Justice Mugure Thande showed up in court virtually. She hit headlines on Friday last week after issuing conservatory orders blocking the implementation of the Finance Act 2023 just days after it was assented into law by President William Ruto. The petition was filed by Busia Senator Okiya Omtata last month. Come last week, he amended the said petition, adding Treasury CES, the Attorney General, National Assembly and Speaker of the National Assembly as respondents. Senator Okiya is among the 7 petitioners, with 4 other interested parties, including the Senate. Over 800 people logged into the virtual session to follow the petition. For starters, Okiya Omtata wanted the Director General of the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority, EPRA, to be charged with contempt. Omtata argues that the conservatory orders extended to the government and its agencies. EPRA implemented 16% VAT on fuel prices over the weekend.
EPRA, Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority, has defied those orders to the extent that it has used the suspended bill and ignored the prohibition against government and its agencies to implement that bill, and gone ahead to hike the prices of fuel.
Former Attorney General Githu Muigai, who was hired by the Attorney General to represent him in the petition, argued that if the Finance Act were legitimately suspended, all other legislative steps would stand suspended, and that if there is no money in the consolidated fund, there is no money to pay salaries. Githu further argued that the petitioners intended to wish away the constitutional, political and financial crisis that they have precipitated in the country. However, that was vehemently opposed by Otiende Amolo, who appears for the third respondent, who argued that only the Finance Act was suspended and not the Appropriations Act. The suspension of the Finance Act 2023 does not stop the collection of taxes.
What the petitioners have done and what they do not want to be addressed is that they have precipitated in the Republic of Kenya a constitutional crisis.
My senior colleague, Githu Muigai, contemptuously tells you that it does not matter. It does not matter to inquire whether your orders have been complied with, and instead proceeds to attack your order. By talking of abuse of process, misleading, they are not attacking counsel, they are attacking the court, unfortunately.
The push and pull between the parties in the petition will proceed until close to 6 p.m. However, the elephant in the room will be which act is currently in place, considering the 2022-2023 financial year ended on June 30th. In the latest directives issued by Lady Justice Mugure Thande, the Finance Act 2023 remains suspended until Monday, 10th of July this year.
The ruling shall be delivered on the 10th of July 2023 at 2 p.m. The orders of the 30th of June 2023 are hereby extended until that date.
The ruling will be delivered and further directions given next week. Will EPRA review its implementation of the 16% VAT on fuel products? The country awaits.
And yes, the question is whether EPRA will adhere to that. We can only wait to see. Now, President William Ruto, for the second time this year, held a meeting with a section of members of parliament from the Azimio coalition, that is Raila Odinga's Nyanza backyard at State House, Nairobi, where Azimio's looming street protests are said to have been part of the agenda. Tuesday's meeting, described by State House as a follow-up on the status of development programs in the Nyanza region, is said to have been initiated by the ICT Cabinet Secretary Eliud Owalo after Azimio coalition leader Raila Odinga held a press conference on the forthcoming demos expected to be launched this Friday countrywide. Apollo Kamau with that.
How are the computers doing?
The launch of a digital lab at St. Mary's School, Yala in Siaya County by ICT Cabinet Secretary Eliud Owalo in the company of Azimio Rebo MPs, Game MP Elisha Odhiambo and Suba South MP Karoli Omondi, a day after a State House meeting between President William Ruto and former Azimio leader Raila Odinga's allies in the region, spoke volumes about the president's intent to win the region's approval, a region perceived to be Odinga's political bastion.
Convey to the President Bwana County Commissioner that we are grateful for nominating Eliud for this position.
According to State House, the Tuesday meeting was a follow-up on the status of development projects in the region, but insiders say the meeting initiated by CS Owalo came after Azimio issued a statement on the looming countrywide protests. President William Ruto is said to be keen to neutralize Azimio demos, especially in the Nyanza region, where Odinga has a fanatical following, by using Azimio Rebo MPs, key government officials from the region, and the development card to weaken Odinga's influence in the region by 2027.
Nasema kama huku upande wa Nyanza tumekuwa kwa umaskini kwa muda mrefu, lakini saa hizi tukupigia William Samoei Ruto kura, lakini ameamua atapatiana kila kitu enye anapatiana kwa wale watu walimpigia kura, atapatia wale wakumpigia kura, na tunampongeza sana, aendelee hivyo, na ikifika 2027 sisi kama wana UDA tutahakikisha ya kwamba William Samoei Ruto anapata kura za kutosha huku.
President William Ruto is set to visit Homa Bay late next week and Game in Siaya early next month, days after Odinga camped in Homa Bay for the Pine Luo Festival, where he called for the region's unity to ward off Ruto in his bastion. Odinga, who has threatened rebels with expulsion, is increasingly facing open hostility from his backyard, with not just the 7 MPs at State House, but from some politicians who lost in elective politics and later appointed to the contentious Chief Administrative Secretary's positions, as well as former governors. Apol Kamau, TV47.
All right, and that story should perhaps begin the broadcast, or not begin the broadcast, but the conversation. It is the biggest question as to what then the president seeks in Nyanza region, but of importance. Will he successfully manage to, get this staff to his side? Some argue yes, some argue no. What will it take for him to unseat the Right Honorable Raila Odinga in his very own backyard? And of course, questions linger as to what are the plans of the Right Honorable Raila himself. And so that is basically what will be engaging the gentlemen that I have on set on. And I would say that we're lucky enough to have 2 of them from that staff. And so they should be able to speak to it. So before we take a quick short break and then loop in the other gentleman who will be joining us shortly, allow me to just, briefly introduce them. We have Meshach Odede, who is the chairperson of VIO Society of Kenya. And we also have the County Governance Watch boss, that is Kevin Osido. Shortly, we'll be having the Member of Parliament of Embakasi North as well, joining us for this very conversation. Gentlemen, before we get to the meat of it, or the flesh of it, that the Raila Odinga staff is slowly shifting to the president's side. Yes, I am asking you. Pick it, point it. Let's do that and see who goes first. Meshach, you go first. The president is successfully making gains in this very tough region?
I don't think so. Because it's not the first time we see something like this. I think any student of history will tell you that there has been things like this before. as early as the days of Dr. Shemo Chuodho and the days of Orengo himself in SDP. So I don't really think this is a new thing for me. It's just something that happens in politics, and not just in Nyanza. I think it keeps happening around the presidency. Anytime somebody wins the power of that particular term, the people who probably are on the other side becomes their first agenda. And so they usually run to try and get support in the places where they largely did not get support.
Nyanza is quite interesting. Perhaps over the years, we have not even seen those ones that were there trying to make any form of gains, because it was clearly a space of Right Honorable Raila Odinga. Do you suppose he still enjoys that, that turf, as many would want to argue?
Thank you so much, Linda, and indeed even for bringing this gentleman here. I was supposed to have lunch with him yesterday.
And then what happened?
No, I was at the County Assembly of Nairobi. I mean the County of Nairobi. The governor was launching the 100 million ECD funds. And so you were unable to meet, but now see what God can do.
God can do wonders, and we'll make sure that you people have coffee here together, that it substitutes for the lunch.
We want lunch.
You want lunch. You don't want coffee?
This is what TV47 can do.
Yeah, we are magicians in our own special way, so there's going to be coffee. Coffee, good coffee, and something to top it up. That would be as good as brunch.
That would be okay. Anyway, on the core of the matter, I don't think that all these stories about a few members of parliament rushing to go and meet with the president will add weight, especially insofar as adding a lot of value to the political space that His Excellency the President or his party is seeking to garner. And we have seen a number of issues. One is some of the people who meet with the president are actually even organizing homecoming meetings for people who are assumably being called defectors. That, in my view, is only happening because if you look at the political framework, at the political environment, ODM is really not campaigning. Azimio is not campaigning because it is not a campaign time. People are looking for development. And I keep saying, and I'll repeat, that you don't have to run to the president at State House. A member of parliament, National Assembly, has zero business to go to the president at State House to begin looking for funds for development. Where the Constitution puts that effort is in the role of the parliamentarian on budget making, which is what we call appropriation.
But you agree with me that to a large extent, lobbying is crucial, and the friends whom you have will in most cases bring much more than expected if you hold them right, in layman's language. So in this case, maybe this is what we're looking at, and you have even had some of them say, well, now we are lucky we're getting this. During the times of Uhuru and perhaps the Handshake Brothers, there was a general feel that, that friendship got some goodies to the, Nyanza region. So can you overlook that aspect?
Linda, that is just because of the kind of profiling that the region has been given, which is in most cases called opposition zone. But if you look at the benefits that governance and a government is supposed to accrue to the people, Luo MPs don't have to go to State House. They have counties. Appropriate resources to county governments based on the laws that exist, strengthen the citizens, because we don't see citizens joining them to go to see the president. What are the mechanisms within which they want to empower the citizens to be able to exercise accountability? Remember that when the president took over power, he made so many promises. Some of us have audited the monies that have gone to Nyanza, including the programs that the president said would be done. And a number of them are not even in the budget that has been recently appropriated, and one that is now being dispensed at the courts. So there are a number of issues. And I think, for me, I think that most of the times the MPs are only rushing there for photos and to want to make a point. And remember that it's coming especially after, either a day or two, after the Luo festival, where they were in fact castigated. My only issue is, why is ODM threatening to expel and not expelling? We have to dig deeper to that. The last bit of it, of course, is that the president is seemingly gaining, because when they are voting, when there is a vote to be cast at the National Assembly, is getting more numbers because Kenya Kwanza has actually bought, quote unquote, some of the Azimio MPs. And so they are giving more benefit to Kenya Kwanza as opposed to Azimio. That, in my view, needs to be the bigger conversation, so that if it is true that Azimio is losing, and particularly ODM, then kick them out. The way I heard people saying in Homa Bay, kick them out, you face a by-election, and then you get loyalists.
Well, I don't know why this does not seem to shake Odede, but Odede, allow me to first of all acknowledge the presence of Mheshimiwa, Member of Parliament of Embakasi North. Thank you so much, Jimmy, for creating time to be with us. And he will tell us that confidently they know that the President was successful in capturing the central region, and slowly by slowly he started by inviting them, some of them, and before you know it, he had quite a majority of them from the central region supporting him. So this is something you do not want to overlook. Meshach, I'll come back to you after this short break. All right, short break, we come back to that conversation. All right, Member of Parliament Embakasi North, Jimmy Gakuya, VIO Society of Kenya chairperson, that is Meshach Odede, and the County Governance Watch Boys, that is Kevin Osido. Gentlemen, allow us to get to this conversation. Odede does not seem to be afraid or shaken or dismayed by the visiting of some of the Nyanza region leaders, to State House. That is to the president, and as many would say, this is in the president's tactic to make sure that at least he gets some love from the Nyanza region. I don't know why he is not shaken. Historically speaking, that very same president has been seen to, slowly by slowly traversing the different parts of the country, while people kept on saying it's not moment for campaign just yet, and before you know it, he managed to get some quite chunk of love from the central region. Honorable Gakuya here will tell you that he used to help him traverse these different parts, and successfully, at least because he is president today, and it's because of the numbers from central region as well, he managed to get this. What do you make of the visits of this gentleman, to State House, but of importance, this conversation that the president is targeting the Right Honorable Raila Odinga's staff?
Thank you, Rida. Allow me to salute the viewers wherever they are watching us from. And welcome the panelists. Today I was a bit late, but
not badly.
Better
just began
than never. And coming to concern, one, I have listened to my farthest and panelists trying to say that politician does not deserve to be visiting State House. Okay. One, let us agree that actually, what is presidency? Presidency is that position that at least carries the whole country together. So that is why he's the president, and he's at the top of everybody else. Then that's why he has his mandate constitutionally, including to what we call presidential decrees. And every region, whether this region is Azimioism or whatever, it requires that presidential note. Yes, we have a constitution, which stipulates how resources are supposed to be shared.
Yeah.
And we have the 47 counties that actually has their traditional way of getting their resources. Maybe Equitable, I would say. We have now the constituencies that also enjoy that process of disbursements of resources. But that does not mean whatever trickles to your constituency is enough for your people. And you don't require even to go to negotiate more. Yes, the president has no powers to give you, because the powers to share resources is at the parliament. But I am sure also president sometimes, when he visits any particular region, he goes there with some goodies. And you arrive to a situation where the president has left behind maybe a project of 200 million.
Yeah.
Those projects were not at the kitty of CDF, neither the kitty of the county government. But the president has come with such a goodies, and he's entitled to that kind of gesture. And there would say, any single member, whether he's a Kenyan citizen or whether he's anybody who visits this country, to visit an office of the president does not mean it demeans your privileges, whether you are a member of parliament or who. And that does not count that when you have been seen with the president, you just wanted to steal what we call portals. No, that's not the essence. You have many other things that you need to negotiate with the president. Currently, we have issues to do with the projections of Kenya Kwanza manifesto of housing. Probably a member from his own region, he would like such a consideration. How do you get there when the sharing of that particular aspect is being talked somewhere, and you are quite away?
All right.
So I would think when the president comes in, he unites the whole country together, regardless whether the country was coming from a very divided direction. Because after that election, purely we don't have two presidents. The constitution only stipulates of one. And therefore, whether you are ODM, whether you are who, then you must call him the president. Otherwise, if the president of the nation, who is you to say he's not?
And I'd love to understand, what are the party rules? In this case, when you're going to visit the president, are you going there as a friend? Do you have to inform your party leader that because I'm your party member and a person who's been elected under your party, it is important to notify you that I'll be going to visit your opponents, and I know it's not an opponent because it's at that time you say rightly that, it's past the election and campaign moment. I will ask you this question. What do you suppose is taking these gentlemen, and I'm surprised there's no lady, all these gentlemen to State House? Is it just a matter of visiting the president? Is it what it is that Honorable Gakuya says? And I cannot see Ugenya Boss. Ugenya Boss says he's Nimluya. I don't know whether you people have seen that clip. Is it legit? It is legit that he says, hata si Mjaluo.
Ugenya Boss is a party leader.
He's a party leader as well.
MDG.
But
and he has no business
upon the shift, he has no business.
Because there are acts that determine opportunities for different parties to engage.
Right.
So I'm sure that he's being very careful around his presence as MDG party leader and what Kenya Kwanza is
affiliated
doing.
Somehow to Kenya Kwanza.
And of course what these other MPs are doing. But it's my good friend Meshach.
And let it be known that the CS is here, and these are just not members of parliament, so yes.
So Linda, allow me to give you two angles. The first is a political angle. The reason why I am not bothered with all this.
Okay.
Politically, we have seen, and I'm glad Honorable Gakuya is here. If he has been a political history student, he will accept and we will agree that we have seen this kind of politics before. It's not the first time we are seeing this. I may not have been there, mature or adult enough, but the history has it that there were times of Jaramogi, and the whole Luo Nyanza was solidly behind Jaramogi. But that did not mean Moi did not work with a few leaders from Nyanza. There was Dalmas, there was Okiki, who was actually the KANU chair, who would actually call a member of parliament Nakiboko as if that was the prefect in class, and he will confirm. But that did not make Nyanza move to Moi. Nyanza was still solidly behind. And we saw other members of parliament from that region, again, from all the way from Siaya to Migori. So this is not happening for the first time. It is just history repeating itself. And it is in order for President to want to work with some leaders from the region. I don't see anything wrong with that.
Historically speaking, and
Yes.
history doesn't have to be years and years back, we have all witnessed the game within the Jubilee Party, and as though it was a protest vote against, President Uhuru Kenyatta or former President Uhuru Kenyatta. He managed to successfully, get quite a chunk from the central region, while many perhaps thought that this would not be possible.
I would not really say this is the reason, from my end, this is the reason why President William Ruto got huge chunk of votes in Mount Kenya. If you remember well, again, like you're saying, history does not have to go too far. Just the other day, all of them said, go to the people direct. Yeah, you don't have to pass through anyone.
Okay.
So that will render Mheshimiwa Gakuya useless to William Ruto because he went to the people direct. Unless he wants to say when it comes to Mount Kenya, you have to go through the MPs, then people will vote you.
And don't you think he went through the MPs?
He
did not? You think he did not go through the members of parliament and meet them?
William Ruto went to churches in Mount Kenya. Who was not in Kenya?
You want to overlook the contribution of Gakuya?
I want to.
The contribution of Kangatas of today, Alice Wahomes of today.
If that was the case, let me tell you a case in point. If that was the case, do you know if of all the leaders from Mount Kenya, Uhuru still had a slightly larger number? If you ask me during the time we were going for election, there were 40-something against 40-something. So why are we not seeing that reflecting? It is because William Ruto and the people in Mount Kenya were working together. So whether Mheshimiwa Gakuya and others were there or not was not going to make a difference. It was people in Ruto in churches, Ruto in Harambes, and then the rest of the leaders accompanying him.
Mheshimiwa, are you listening to
I'm not finished. I was giving the political angle.
Yes. I just want him to be on alert so I can respond.
Yes, that is political angle. But now our members of parliament, the 9 plus senator visiting for Maendeleo, let's now apply logics. And yesterday I saw a few of them saying, this president is really good. And we have already having programs. We have discussed Maendeleo and some of them are now going to happen. Now the logic is, should I be worried that I am coming from Awendo and my member of parliament was not there? So in this regime of William Ruto, I am not going to see Maendeleo because Walter didn't.
But Mheshimiwa has spoken to that. Mheshimiwa has said there's some level of development that you will get that is constitutional and all that.
Let me apply.
So these pluses are for friendship.
That's where I'm headed to. So let's assume that we take Mheshimiwa Gakuya's sentiments to be the truth and the only truth. So if there are some Maendeleo that you will get, you called it lobbying. And I say lobbying is just a polite way of accepting mediocrity. Then we call it lobbying. So because you want to tell me that the president of Kenya has a separate budget of Maendeleo that is not in the budget that parliament discussed. Is that what you want to say?
My question.
Because if you say, like Mheshimiwa said, there are things you get when the president visits. He comes with a lot of goodies.
Meshach, hence my question to you.
Does the president have a basket of goodies separate from the budget that Kenyans are discussing today?
Does he not? And hence my question to you.
If he doesn't, then this is just accepting mediocre in the name of lobbying for Maendeleo.
You see, I asked you this question. Why do you suppose these members of parliament, a senator and the CS, went to visit the president? Was it just, this is our...
Let me be candid with you.
Yeah.
They are visiting the president because quite a number of them are dirty. And...
Is it so?
Yes.
Okay.
It is so. Quite a number of them are dirty.
All right.
Others have not paid taxes. Some have gone into some serious business that and the government have got eyes. So you either be friendly and we let you, or You go on the other side and we follow you.
Are you saying
Full
that
stop.
we elected a president who is there to sanitize, like the Capitol Hill moments, as they would say, you know, what is impunity? Because my understanding would be that the president, in his best interest, would want a clean country, would want to address the question of corruption, and I think he has spoken to that. So why would these people then go to befriend the president so that their sins are covered?
That is what has happened. All the ones who had sins during Uhuru are
been
covered. So these ones were friendly in that other regime.
What picture does it paint
now
of
they are
the
in a
president?
position where these other ones were.
What picture
now
does it paint of the president? What picture does it paint of?
Linda, those are Ndugu Meshak's comments.
Yeah, you know, and that's why I asked him to substantiate.
Yeah, and because the people that we are talking about are not here to also defend themselves, I want to run away from making comments around it, but probably to just assume that he could be right. Then two things will happen. Time will tell, and therefore it means that institutions that are supposed to safeguard resources and the interests of Kenyans will have to take effect and ensure that the right things are done.
Right.
So if the president is seemingly seen to be protecting, safeguarding funny people, then I think that is an opportunity for action to be taken when that moment comes. But in my view, I'll still repeat, and regardless of what Mheshimiwa Gakuya says, and I'm happy that he's agreeing with me, that we have a budget process where resources are appropriated. Whether the president has money somewhere in a bag or in gunias or in his pocket, Linda, there is a process. And I keep asking myself, why is it that it is Nyanza MPs day in, day out, or rather a few Nyanza MPs? And they're not just MPs, there is a senator from Kisumu, there is a cabinet secretary. The people from Tana River should be asking CS Owalo, why don't you also take some of our leaders to go and negotiate for open internet in our county?
Okay.
The people from Marsabit, the people from Turkana should be asking the CS, why are you also not carrying our leaders to State House to go and negotiate for open internet and all these things that the ICT ministry is supposed to be doing? Outside, what we see happening at State House are serious conversations, Linda, of people who are also being appointed. And I know where the people meet to have these conversations, whether it is over a cup of coffee or lunch or dinner up to late night meetings. Within a very short time, you will see a few people who are very close to the kind of members that we are seeing going to State House, being made MDs of parastatals here, CEO of this, that, elsewhere. Bottom line is that that will not accrue on any development process. And we are here, Jalas will tell us that because I've been going to State House, there is now a housing project that is going on. These housing projects were done by the Big Four agenda item.
Okay.
It's just that the former president had a serious conflict with his deputy that most of them could not, rather that most of the things that they wanted to do could not be achieved then. But even in so saying, it still borders on resource availability. The fact that you went to meet with the president does not mean that the people should be treated differently and separately from established systems and structures. So that, for example, that you went there, the number of houses that are supposed to be put in your constituency goes up. In fact, if you look at the functions of counties, you ask yourself, how come the members of parliament who are going to State House are not also engaging in an equal manner with their governors? Why? Because housing really and urban development infrastructure is a county government function. Why can't we see people like MP for Langata going to meet with Mheshimiwa Sakaja and have conversations around housing projects in Langata, which is in Nairobi County?
So can we
Why can't we see the senator from Kisumu County also engaging with the governor of Kisumu County? The same to MP for Game, my good friend from Game, to also go and with Mheshimiwa Elisha Odhiambo to also meet with the governor of Siaya and have a good conversation around what are you doing, how can we work together, and etc. So Linda, this is purely political. I'll tell you, because it's too early in the day, it will not amount to any numbers of votes.
Is it?
As long as Mheshimiwa Raila Amolo Odinga is here. And I'll give you two scenarios. One, If the people of Nyanza don't have a candidate at the national level, they will not vote. The presidential vote will not be cast. This we can take note
to the
of.
bank.
We can take this to the bank when that time comes. The total number of votes cast for the local seats, governor, women rep, ward, MCA, is going to be higher than what the people of Luo Nyanza are going to give to the presidential vote if they don't have their own at the ballot. So all this foray we are seeing, all this or that, is purely meant to also have pictures to share on social media after the Homa Bay Luo Festival. Listen to how the members of parliament, their colleagues who attended the Luo Festival spoke, and I'm speaking politically. My only issue is, why does ODM threaten to expel and not expel? What is it that is, who is holding them? Is it that these people paid them for certificates? Is it that they have more people on the ground than ODM and they are scared that if the party goes there on its own, they will not be able to fill stadiums and stadia and the marketplaces? If you say you are expelling,
that they have sent these people there?
Is it that they have sent them and they are lying to us? If you want to expel someone, because there is a law, Political Parties Act, that protects the people who voted for them.
And having gone through that,
activities.
do you suppose they will be justified to proceed and suspend these individuals?
Of course, the law exists, and it indicates that the moment you are elected on this party and you start propagating and profiling and drumming support for another party, you resign. And your party leader the SecGen is supposed to write a letter, give it to the speaker. Your seat is declared vacant, and we go for by-elections. Interestingly,
IEBC
there is even no IEBC.
IEBC is another story. Yes.
Issue to do with party management.
Yeah.
It lies with the party membership and party hierarchies. And a member should not be very painful about why that fraternity is not taking action to whip this or to whip these members. The prerogative still lies to the party.
Yeah.
And if the party does not want to punish their members at that level, that means that particular party is showing some element of democracy. Because it is not a crime for those members just to be punished because one purports that actually when they were being seen with the head of state, then there were some dirty cuts that were going on. We have seen even Honorable Raila Odinga in the presence of an audience with the head of state. Should we find it on a negative way because of that? We have witnessed them at Kasarani, watching a match. We have witnessed them at Nyayo Stadium. We have also witnessed them at other forums. Should we also try to predict that actually the essence of those was just mere photos and there was some hidden cuts? No, let us allow that actually the president is a symbol of the country and there is no two presidents. And anybody who is a Kenyan who may wish to have a visit to the president has a right to do so, and it's not a crime. And parties should not use a backdoor to whip members because of only that small reason of that. Somebody has been seen taking a photo of State House with the head of state.
And this was
and I will tell you this frankly, yes, the member is right, that actually that community of that lakeside, they have their kingmaker. And that's done. And that says, that does not mean that Ruto does not understand this narrative of politics. He's aware of that. But he also needs what we call soft landing. When he's in Nyanza, he needs also people to accompany them.
Odede says that you people did not give him any form of soft landing in central region. He went to the people.
I can tell you, Rida, yes, I listened him. But he has his also right to his opinion.
Yes.
But the fact remains, you cannot change the facts. Because today, the dynamics of Nyanza politics is not anywhere equal to Mount Kenya.
Yes.
That's why they have their kingmaker. They cannot decide their own. They must decide after their kingmaker.
Right.
As we are different.